Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and I can't start today's show without talking about the ISO 10002. You know, some people just love to complain, but companies have a responsibility to care. The International Organization for Standardization, ISO, has revised ISO 10002, the standard for complaint handling. This document enables organizations to foster a customer-focused environment open to feedback, heightening their customer satisfaction. You can get the ISO 10002 standard from the American National Standards Institute, ANSI, the U.S. member body of ISO. Visit ANSI.org/complain to learn more. That's ANSI.org/complain to learn more.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Ben Crosbie of Franchise Development for the DRIPBaR franchise opportunity. And at the DRIPBaR, everything they do is motivated by one fundamental focus: supporting the best health of their clients. Through advances in cellular and biological science, they help them fight the consequences of chronic illness, address the effects of aging, and achieve a balanced wellness. I'm going to talk to Ben about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032. That's
franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 14 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Ben Crosbie of Franchise Development for the DRIPBaR franchise opportunity. And at the DRIPBaR, everything they do is motivated by one fundamental focus: supporting the best health of their clients. Hi, Ben. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me, Marty.
Oh, this is my pleasure, Ben. It's great to have you on the show today. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Ben?
Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, fantastic. And I'm sure it's finally warming up in Massachusetts, isn't it?
Definitely. It's a nice day today.
That's good. That's fantastic. So this is very different for us, Ben. We've been doing the show now 14 years, and I can't say I've ever had your concept on the show. So I was really excited to interview you today. So, maybe you could talk a little bit about, because I know you're no stranger to franchising. Maybe, you could talk a little bit about your background and then, the history of DRIPBaR and how you got involved in the organization.
Sure. No, that's great. I started in the health and fitness industry. I built another franchise company called Tap Out Fitness, where I secured the global rights to that brand back in 2014, and grew it pretty significantly. Did over 500 sales, sold 11 international countries. But then in 2019, I exited that business and started a franchise development company called ZOR 411. But since 2017, I was actually going to the DRIPBaR.
Wow.
So I was always go to the DRIPBaR in order to do the IV supplementation before I travel, when I started feeling sick, when I wanted more energy. I was using it as a way to work longer, harder hours to beat what I perceived as competition out there. Right. So once I started looking for new businesses to franchise, I went and looked at the DRIPBaR, met my now partner, Shannon Petteruti, who founded the business back in 2016. We formed our partnership, and we launched the DRIPBaR franchise system in September of 2019. And, it's just been a rocket ship ever since.
That's what it sounds like, as I was doing my research, Ben. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, for someone who's new to this, as I was researching it, because I was new to it. So it sounds like, these are IV supplements. I know you have different types of drip, there's the lifestyle drip, you have power packs. And maybe you could talk a little bit about the benefits. You were mentioning, it makes sense that, the drips made you competitive, didn't it? It gave you more energy. So you could talk a little bit about that, because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So as far as IVs go, we split them into two categories. The first is lifestyle drips, and lifestyle drips are for people that are healthy, like, as you said, the power pack for energy, mental clarity, and focus. But we have 14 offerings to meet different lifestyle needs, like the Jet Setter for people that travel a lot. Since COVID, however, our number one drip has been the Shield to boost your immune system to fight off the common cold and viruses. The other section, and you can imagine that avatar that we market to is a young professional, 30-plus, male, female. And then the other section is health support drips. These have real research and data behind them that support the value and the claims. We do high-dose vitamin C for clients with cancer, clients that are going through chemotherapy and are in remission. We also do in health support chelation, which is a process of removing heavy metals from the body. And by doing so, it's shown to help with heart disease, dementia, early onset diabetes, and such. So it's got a very polar opposite avatar that we market and advertise to. So it's a very dynamic business that we manage accordingly.
It sounds like, I imagine too, better than I do, Ben, but I mean, I was thinking about the repeat sale factor, is that I imagine that a lot of your clients come back in, I don't know if it's on a weekly basis or monthly basis, but there is that repeat sale factor, I imagine, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah, clients, even without a membership, which we didn't have memberships when we started, when Shannon started in 2016, people kept coming back on a program maybe for cancer care, and they were coming back once a week. Lifestyle drips, typically clients are coming in 1 to 2 times a month, every 14 to 30 days, and it's a consistent regimen. Once you start IVs and you feel the effects, you remain. I come from the health club industry, so there were 2 very specific things that I looked at for this type of business. One was unit level economics, which, these are just off the chart.
Right.
But also it's retention. And because the industry is really growing now, it's in its infancy, huge opportunity for growth.
Right.
But I looked at the retention rates, and retention was around 74%.
Wow.
Clients that would come back at least once every 30 to 60 days consistently for that year. So it's a very high retention for this type of industry from the research that I've seen.
Sure. Those are impressive numbers, Ben. And it sounds like I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania, Ben. I'm right across from New Jersey, and it sounds like you're doing well in New Jersey. It sounds like the state is almost sold out, isn't it?
Yeah, we are. We've sold quite a bit. With that, we have an area rep partner that has lots of experience in business development and franchising. His name is Carl Gould. But just fantastic partner, fantastic person that really understands the vision of the DRIPBaR and what we're doing.
It sounds like the theme of the show last year, Ben, we couldn't get around it, was, of course, the pandemic, and I hate to say that the pandemic represented an opportunity for the DRIPBaR, but it seems like it would increase the demand for your type of service. What role did the pandemic affect the DRIPBaR in any way?
It affected us, yes. But it is interesting because whenever this is brought up, I like to say that it has been the best marketing and advertising we could have ever asked for. We just would not have asked for it.
Of course.
So our business remained open as an essential business the entire time. Right. We increased our gross revenue $50,000 year over year. And our margin actually increased because now that we're franchising, we have the ability to really push the vendors in order to get lower product costs, which we pass on and push to the franchisees. So overall, the pandemic did not slow down our sales.
Right. Yeah.
At all from a franchise development side. From a unit side, it increased, it helped it. The blend of drips went more towards the shield, so people wanted to boost their immune system versus just the power pack to get more energy and mental clarity. It was an interesting time, but we were very fortunate.
That's terrific. And I read my favorite magazine, of course, is Franchise Times, and I saw that you guys were mentioning there recently, Ben, and they had you kind of like tagged, I guess, in the new age wellness industry. It sounds to me like, I don't want to say call this like a new industry, but or even how big your industry is, but there's certainly a lot of room for growth, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, with my experience from the health club industry, I see the retail IV space being what the fitness industry was 25 years ago. Very fragmented, lots of mom and pop places, people trying to do one thing or everything. We want to be laser focused to be the market leader that's going to set the standard, but also that'll be everywhere. We're not coming out just saying we do things one way. We're looking to go everywhere to make living longer, healthier lives very accessible to people. And we're really excited to be able to build and offer drips to the mass market.
That's terrific. I'm sure you have hundreds of stories, Ben, but does anything stand out over the years? I mean, what's one of the most interesting things that's happened to you, or have you had any like wow experiences since being part of this organization? There's wow experiences all the time. I just by being in franchising, the best thing is when people open, because we work with them for so long, and getting to that crescendo of opening up the doors and, when everybody listened and everything is prepared to launch, it's really, really exciting. And now
We're opening up a location every week, every other week.
Wow.
For the foreseeable future. So it's just it's a very good time to be a member of the DRIPBaR.
Sure. No, absolutely. Maybe we could talk a little bit about franchising, Ben. What types of characteristics, do you look for, when you're meeting with like a prospective franchisee for the DRIPBaR? I imagine that this type of franchise is something that, a lot of even, franchisees can add to their portfolio, couldn't they?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And we're in a unique situation because I'm also a partner, right? So when I'm looking at prospects, I want to make sure that we develop a rapport and a relationship of mutual respect in order to grow together. Because I'm a partner and not just, the sales guy. Right. I'm working in bringing on clients that, I may be partnering with for the next 10 years.
Right. Exactly.
So really the rapport and the communication and, is important. That said, we're getting a lot of entrepreneurs. We're not getting, we are getting some doctors, some nurses. This does not need to be owned by doctors or nurses.
Right.
And then we've also got a lot of multi-unit owners. They own quick serve restaurants, QSR type brands.
Right.
They own massage, personal care, fitness. They're jumping in because they see this as a very nice complement to their portfolio, but also our staff pool is so much easier to manage and acquire than in restaurants.
Right.
For
of course.
So it's a very nice complement to them.
That's great. How does the training work then? Once, someone decides that, they do indeed want to become a franchisee to DRIPBaR, I mean, do they come to corporate headquarters? Is that how it works?
Mm-hmm. We have 3 different stages.
Okay.
So, yes, they can come to corporate if they would like, or they can come to a location that's in development. A lot of times the owners like going to see the next one that's opening. So we do that. It's more of a casual overview for owners. It can be done whenever they would like. But we also have our 2 main ones is the DRIPBaR University, which is our online learning education center, where we do tests, quizzes to gauge proficiency of knowledge and absorbance.
Right.
That's great for both the owners, the nurse, the front desk, all of the staff. It's also our continuing education portal. So we're constantly pushing out content, data, research to help educate our groups. So that's very important. And then we take it a step further and we actually come to your location. We come to every location that's opening for 3 days before you open, sometimes longer, to make sure that the owner and the staff gets trained in their environment and they're very comfortable with running the DRIPBaR.
That's great. Sounds like it's great. You can quiz them too, Ben. Make sure that you keep them on their toes, right?
Exactly.
That's clever.
It's very good for compliance, and the franchisees love it.
I think that's
because they want to make sure that their nurses are actually learning things.
That's fantastic. I haven't heard of that, but I think that's brilliant. It's very clever. Maybe you could talk about a typical day. Because I'm trying to understand. Like, is there a certain time of day that the DRIPBaR gets busy? Like, is it in the morning? Is it after? Or is it really throughout, like, the whole day? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty consistent throughout the day. So it's not like the after work crowd. All of these are scheduled, so it's like scheduling a massage appointment. So there's definitely some busier times, but it's a very comfortable environment to work in. As an owner, it's like a CEO level role. You're not in the day-to-day business.
Right.
We have a nurse that mixes the ingredients and places the needle with the clients, and then we have a front desk, like nutritionist type advisor, that helps manage the schedule, promote the retail, talk to the clients. So, yeah, that's how.
Right.
That's sort of the day in the business. Mm-hmm. The franchisor does a lot of the marketing, advertising, outreach for the site. So there doesn't need to be a whole lot of time spent by the franchise owner.
What's it like, Ben? Because I've never done this before. Like you mentioned, you were a customer to the DRIPBaR at one point, and you said you were doing it to
not only a client.
Right. There you go. There you go. That's familiar, right? But it's interesting to me, like, like you said you did it to remain competitive, because things are so competitive today. But so what's the experience like? I mean, is it like drinking 3 or 4 coffees, or like what is that like? Because I haven't experienced that.
Yeah. So once you walk in, you know that you're in more of a modern medical experience. Right. Very clean, very comfortable, very inviting. It is an IV, so there is a needle. I personally hate needles. Lots of people do. I don't think many people like it, but it's something that I've overcome in order to get this effect.
Right.
So
absolutely.
The different drips have different actions, none of which is like drinking 5 coffees, right?
Okay.
It elevates your energy level and sustains it for quite some time. You can still sleep. You're not wired the whole time.
Right.
It's basically bringing your body into more of a balance, so you have that natural energy that you were supposed to have if you weren't deficient in these vitamins, minerals, nutrients. There are others. One thing that I love doing is being in New England. Mm-hmm. There are allergies, and it's cold, so you always have a head cold, right?
Right.
So I have some discovery days where I bring clients on, and I do a drip, and people can notice that my head is stuffed up. My voice is a little different, and then within 3 minutes of getting the drip, my nose opens up. It's clear. My voice changes.
Wow.
People can actually see the effects like, oh, wait, it actually works.
That's fantastic.
That's why we are here. So, there's definitely an interesting cause and effect, but we have something to meet the needs of those clients.
Right. That's terrific. My son suffers from allergies really bad, and he's getting hit lately. As the pollen count is just increasing out there. You know what I mean? So, and he deals with that on a daily basis, and I think it's great. And, and the difference with coffee is, I drink coffee all day. Is you're up and then you're down. You know what I mean? And this sounds like as you said, it's sustained throughout the day, and that's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole experience. This is a new way of treating and enhancing your wellness. This is a new way to be well, to be healthy.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That hasn't been around, and it's a completely different experience from drinking a bunch of sugar or caffeine.
Sure, of course. Yeah, no, absolutely. And in studying your background, Ben, as I mentioned earlier, you're not a stranger to franchising. What I find interesting about franchising is I got involved around around 1999, 1998. I was drawn to franchising, and what's amazing to me is all the new industries that are franchising today. Like when I got involved, it was the typical ones of carpet cleaning, pizza, hamburgers, and things like that. And now, there's just so many choices. From everything you've learned up to this point, Ben, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Because there is so much out there today. There's more to choose from. It could be a little confusing to someone who's new to getting involved in franchising. So what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
Be open-minded. Talk and learn through the business first. We on the Fran Dev side things, most should be looking to educate the consumer first and the prospects, because at the end of the day, if you understand and have a passion for whatever business it is, you have a higher chance of being successful. Franchising is a great opportunity because you're really partnering with a C-level team, confirming that they're actually a C-level team is very important as well. When you're a prospect looking around, you don't want to be sold, a false hope, false promises.
Right.
But if everything is checks off, you appreciate and understand the business, and you like the team that's there to support you, really in the early times, focus on working with the team. Get rid of all the distractions in the periphery. Work with the team, be transparent, be motivated to be successful, and a good franchise system will give you all the tools in order to be successful.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before in 14 years, Ben. As you mentioned, to partner with C-level partners. You know what I mean? That's right. You don't get that experience when you go into your own business. And I think that's really so important. So if you can look into a crystal ball, maybe 3 years, 5 years down the road. I mean, again, it sounds like that the DRIPBaR is exploding. Where do you see the organization 3 years, 5 years down the road, Ben?
Yeah, so that's always a fun and interesting question to answer.
Yeah.
As far as this year goes, we'll have 30 to 50 open by the end of the year. Whatever we miss off of that 50 will end up being open in quarter one.
Right.
We have invested a tremendous amount of time, energy, capital, and resources into the foundation of this business. So we are ready for the explosive growth. As I was alluding to earlier, we have the traditional locations, but looking in the crystal ball, as you said, we are going into non-traditional installations aggressively. So my personal goal is to be in every airport over the next couple of years.
Wow,
I want to be integrated into doctors, dentists, chiropractic facilities. Health clubs are a great site to do pop-ups, as well as hotels. We're working with quite a few hotels now to integrate this into their business travel portfolio of amenities. So we're very excited. Numbers, we could be 1,000, we could be 2,000. I want to be like the Starbucks of IVs. Yeah. So we want to create a culture at the DRIPBaR where the DRIPBaR becomes synonymous with a staple activity that clients do every, 2 to 4 weeks. We want this conversation to be, what Starbucks did you get today? What drip do you do this week? And we have the trajectory to get there, and it's exciting. And we've invested and focused on that goal, and we're dedicated to continually executing on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, those non-traditional locations, that sounds exciting, but I always think about myself as I don't fly often, but I know every time I fly, I always get sick. It's like 100% of the time, if I sit on a plane, I come off and a day later, I'm sick. You know what I mean? And it makes sense to be in places like airports and hotels where you're on business meetings and things like that, and you want to have a lot of energy and things like that. It makes so much sense. It just sounds so exciting as far as, what's going on at the DRIPBaR. So I think it's great. What's the best way, Ben, for our listeners to get more information on the DRIPBaR? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but even the service itself. Are there any websites you can kind of point our listeners to? It is thedripbar.com. That has everything to do with the franchise opportunity, our menu of services. We also have our app launching over the next week. That's great. Can be found in the App Store or on Google Play. So we have access, and you can also fill out the application form online. Or just reach out to me directly at ben@thedripbar.com. That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you today, Ben, and I'd like to already invite you back, in the near future, because I think this is an exciting opportunity for franchisees. So it was great to talk to you today, Ben. Yeah, thank you, Marty. I look forward to following up with you shortly. Thanks, Ben. This has been my pleasure. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting franchise interviews many years now, and you can actually hear the show in a number of different places today. You can go to, of course, franchiseinterviews.com, where we have our interviews arranged alphabetically. We also have interviews arranged by category. So if you have a particular industry that you're interested in, you can go to the category of your choice and check out all the different interviews that we've done over the years. Our show's been syndicated in a number of different places. Of course, you can hear our show on blogtalkradio.com. We've been working with Blog Talk Radio for many years now, and you can hear live shows there, and then you can download them as an MP3. You can hear our shows on Stitcher.com. You can hear our interviews on, I think it's pronounced, I always want to call it Blueberry.com, but it's BLUBRRY.com, which is another podcast service. You can now hear our shows on iTunes.com, and of course, you can hear our shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you're a diehard fan to our show on Live365.com. And we have over the years over 420 shows. So if you were to listen to Live365.com for 2 weeks, there's a chance that you may not even hear the same show twice. So that's how many shows we've recorded over the years. But today's Great Quote in Franchising podcast comes from Darren Guccione, and Darren is the CEO and co-founder of Keeper Security, Inc. And what's interesting about this podcast, we had Darren on the show as the founder and the creator of Keeper, which is the world's most downloaded password manager and digital vault. And Darren is a real entrepreneur. And one of the questions that we ask on the show is, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur or franchipreneur or someone looking to buy a franchise? And that question is usually directed to someone who has been directly involved in franchising over the years. But again, Darren is a real entrepreneur. His background is in accounting and business, and I thought his response was just as great as anything that we've heard on the show. So here we go with Darren Guccione, the CEO and co-founder of Keeper Security, Inc.
Amazing. It's amazing technology. In studying your background, Darren, I mean, I was mentioning earlier, I mean, the majority of our listeners, again, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. You know, they want to go into their own business, and they're kind of like heading towards the franchise alternative. What advice would you give to them? Because you're certainly, in studying you, certainly classified as an entrepreneur. So what advice would you give to them?
Well, my background is engineering technology. I'm also a CPA, and
right.
I've always had an admiration for franchises. One of the things that I love about franchises, among other things, is that you can analyze the different franchise models that are out there, the brands, the type of businesses, and you can quickly identify which ones are successful. And typically, they give you a roadmap of what you need to do to execute. When you start a business without
right.
a franchise roadmap, you typically don't necessarily know where you're necessarily going to go or wind up. And so you get a greater sense of security and guidance when you can pick a franchise model that, A, fits within, your goals in life, your interests in life, and B, provides a really sound infrastructure for you to build a business with a great support system around you. Most businesses that are one-off businesses don't have that. So there's a greater sense of uncertainty out there when a business owner or an entrepreneur, as you've outlined it, decides to pursue a franchise versus doing something completely fresh and new. I think the risk profile of doing the latter is much greater. So that's my response to that.
No, it's fantastic advice. So any final thoughts, Darren?
Fantastic interview with Darren Guccione. So I want to thank everyone for making our show such a success, and this podcast has really just taken off over the years, and we got some really great quotes in franchising coming up. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.